Live at 5. This will be our first segment in 2025. And hey Mandy, you're the first one to jump on. We're just getting started. You can see Miss Ruby here. And I'm kind of fiddling with the camera because I'm trying something new today where I'm also recording this so we can use it in other platforms. So we'll see how this goes, right? Thank you. We're glad to see you. We're, as you can see, kind of bundled up. It's a little chilly out here today. But Ruby's happy. She's doing her thing, eating, and just had her dinner, so she's pretty content. We will kind of sit here for just a minute before we get started. I thought while we're kind of giving this a minute, I wanted to share with you guys, I'm going to talk today about the weather, which we tend to always do when we have horses, but I know a lot of folks are impacted by the upcoming or already experiencing severe weather in the States, and I wanted to share a bit about what we do to keep the horses healthy and cared for during these big weather events. Before that, I wanted to share with you something really sweet that happened this week. So we have a young lady who is 11 who comes out and has spent time with Ruby really for several years now. They're good buddies. And she had asked me if she could do an interview for a school project. And so she was here yesterday and we did her interview. And maybe next week I'll share a bit about that because there's some really great questions about the work we do and what makes it work and how it works for different people. So maybe we'll talk about that next week. But I have to show you. So she came in and she had created this. Hey Butchie, just in time for art class. So I'm sharing, one of our students came out and had presented this to me yesterday. I'm going to hold it kind of close to the camera. So this is Ruby Dooby. So Miss Ruby is up here in the corner and then the rest of it are her herd mates. So we have Lucy down here, we have Bella up top, and then Lady here down below. And this just made my week. Like, what a sweet gesture that she created this for us and just put so much love into the horses, which is really what it's all about, is that we get to share these horses with people who love them as much as we do. So I wanted to share with you what made my week and this really, really sweet gesture from one of our kiddos. And again, I'll talk maybe a bit next week about the interview we did and her questions because I thought she had some really great things to ask about. But I wanted to share a bit today about cold weather care with the horses and what that looks like, which in Texas you wouldn't think it's such a big deal, but we are, like many other people, about to experience a big weather shift for this week. And what we're expecting, so we're southeast Texas, we're looking at starting tomorrow night and running through probably late Wednesday, which of course overnight will take us into Thursday, so a few days. And we'll have low temperatures in the upper teens. And just for reference, yesterday it was about 65 and sunny. So big change. Hi Terry, how are you? So we're going from typical temperatures this time of year, 50s, 60s. We're going to have this big temperature swing come in where it's going to be in the upper teens. Add some wind to that, and then add 2 to 4 inches of snow and maybe some ice. So that's what we expect to happen here Monday into Tuesday. And these kinds of things can actually really impact the horse care and what we do to take care of these guys and keep them healthy. And she's chasing her hay bag behind me, so I'm just going to leave it alone because I know if I just keep fussing with it, I'm going to spend this whole time worrying about where the camera is and where the horse is. So she's there chasing her hay bag. So in general, healthy horses who are appropriately cared for are actually quite adaptable to weather changes. So they are comfortable in cold temperatures. They actually are more comfortable probably than in the heat. And it shouldn't be a big deal. Hi, Deborah. Good to see you. It shouldn't be a big deal for them to be cold, right? Like most people, we're cold, they're cold, not how it works. Hi, Miss. Good to see you. I bet you guys are colder than we are all the way out there in Washington. But the big thing with horses is when you have a sudden change, that can really disrupt their digestion and their hydration, and that can cause really big problems. So because we're going from typical temperatures this time of year, 50s, 60s, to a sudden swing of precipitation and teens and wind, we do a good bit of extra work to make sure they stay healthy. And our priority is, are they eating? Are they drinking? Are they staying warm? Are they moving? And so I've been spending the last couple of days getting ready for this, and wanted to share a bit about what that looks like. And so if you're somebody taking care of horses with a big weather change, or just curious about what that looks like and how we keep our herd healthy, in general, our horses always have bagged hay. And so they've got hay nets on a big bale. They've got small bales like the one Ruby is chasing back there. There it is. She's always got hay, and they have it set up to where they can move around and get to it, and that increases their movement, which helps keep them thirsty, keeps them moving, keeps their gut moving. There she is. Keeping their gut moving is really critically important during these weather changes, and if they are cold and so they don't want to move to the hay, they're not eating, so they're not getting thirsty, so therefore they're not drinking and staying hydrated, they can get what's called colic, which would be a really painful issue with their digestive system that can end up being quite serious. And so we make sure they always have hay, but for events like this, they get extra hay bags out. We will keep them spread out, but I'm also putting them closer in towards the shelter, so if during the sleet and the snow they want to stay close, they have access to it. And then we will also put some loose hay out. So especially when tomorrow night temperatures are starting to drop and snow's about to move in, I'm going to put several piles of loose hay out, and I'll do that again Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon. So what can we do to keep these guys munching, which will help keep them drinking? And the other thing that does is, as they're digesting the hay, that's like a little heat burner in their belly, so it keeps them warm. And if they're warm, they're more likely to want to drink. So a problem you can run into is, hey, my body's cold, and so I don't want to go to the hay, and I don't want to drink cold water, and so that can lead to that dehydration and those issues. So we do always have fresh water available in ample amounts, but we've added a second trough in their shelter, which will hopefully protect it a bit from the elements and from freezing. And then I've also staged a couple smaller buckets where it'll be easy to bring water from the house if we need to bring hot water out to heat up their water and keep them drinking. So not only, here's Ruby, she's pushing that hay bag. I hid hay pellets in this right before we got started so that she would want to just hang out and be happy here, and she's apparently making a big game of it. So several water options, making sure we have the option for warm water, because that will also help with that hydration and keeping them drinking. As always, they have their shelter, and so shelter is up in the back corner, always have access to it. We've got an extra water in there now. The other thing I'm doing is adding extra bedding to it, so we're going to bed it down really deep, and that way if they choose to go in it, there's plenty of comfortable warm spots to lay down. So we've got hay and more hay, water everywhere you can get. They get salt in their feed, but I actually add a little bit extra salt, and there's loose salt in their shelter as well, so they have that accessible. And most people, the first thing they think about is either locking them up so they're protected from the weather, or blankets, right? And because, again, those are the things, if we're cold, we want to go inside and we want to cozy up. Horses are more adaptable. They're not the same as us, but they do have access to that shelter if they want it. And I will blanket if I need to. So the horses do have blankets. There's some trade-off if you do blanket. So if they're not used to wearing them regularly, that can just be disruptive to their system. And if they're disrupted, again, does that affect their eating, drinking, normal behavior, which we don't want to do. And B, it will impede their natural ability to warm themselves. So horses have a really cool system where in the winter their coats, as you can see, she's got a really nice fluffy coat on her. That coat is going to stand, the hair will stand straight up, and it will trap warm air against her body, and that keeps them warm. So really well-designed system for horses to take care of themselves. Of course, when we put a blanket on, it flattens that coat. So it's not something I do if it's not necessary. It is helpful when it's needed. So if I'm going to put a blanket on, I'm mindful that it needs to have a little bit of weight to it because I am taking away some of their natural ability to heat themselves. And it is a change. So I'm monitoring if it disrupts their eating, drinking, normal behavior. Typically, so we've got 4 girls here, as you saw in our awesome, if you didn't see it already, check this out. These are the 4 girls in our herd that one of our students did for us. Of our herd, I have 2 that are actually appreciative. When it gets cold and damp, they like their blankets, and so I will put blankets on them. And I have 2, and that is Ruby here as one of them, that would really like for me to keep that blanket really well stored in the barn and they never have to see it. They trust their system, they know how to stay warm and comfortable, they don't like it. So as long as they're healthy and adapting well, they don't have to have the blankets. If I find that they're shivering or not moving or not eating and drinking, then I'll go ahead and throw them on. But that's, I mean, we kind of shift when we have a big weather event like this. It does really put our focus on how do we keep them healthy and cared for and make sure that we're preventing a health issue in the middle of something or on the backside of it. So our next couple of days is going to be keeping them warm, drinking, moving, eating, and I'll tell you what, this little girl and I, we are hoping for a few inches of snow. Ruby likes snow. I'm going to have to post some pictures from the couple of times. She's been here since 2017, and I think we've had snow twice in that time, and she really likes it. They get out and they play and they run around, and they don't mind if there's icicles on their noses or whatnot. So stay tuned. We'll put some pictures up this week of them, hopefully, fingers crossed, playing around in the snow. So that's kind of what I wanted to share today. So we talked a little bit about keeping the horses healthy in this weather. I know it's affecting people all across the state, so stay warm and safe, and hope everybody handles well through this event. What I will look forward to sharing next week, like I said, Molly had some great questions about our program and helping people with the horses, and I'd love to share next week a bit about what makes Ruby's unique and different from some of the other things that are out there as far as equine therapy or equine wellness programs, and then also how do we adapt so that we're meeting the needs of the individual and really making a difference that lasts well beyond the time that they spend here. So that's what I am looking forward to sharing with you next week. In the meantime, you guys take care this week. We are going to hunker down and post some pictures, and we'll talk to you next Sunday live at 5. Take care. Good to see you.